Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Out of the Park Baseball 24 mini-series playthrough of the New York Yankees. We're going to be playing a few seasons with the Yankees over the next week or two until the first patch or two are released for OOTP 24, and we begin our long-term playthrough. It's been a solid season for the Yankees so far, up 3.5 games on the Red Sox. A bit surprising performance by Boston this year in the American League East. Even though it's going to be a short series, we've tried to make it as challenging as possible for us. We have set it up with the highest trading difficulty also, and we're also using hard mode for training as well as the new reputation system to try to make things interesting for us as we go forward. As we sit here in the middle of August, as I mentioned, we're 3.5 games up in the division. Luis Gil and Oswald Peraza just began rehab assignments in Scranton today. So we'll have some decisions to make on those two players in the coming days and weeks. And most interestingly, perhaps, Aaron Judge, after his 62 home run season last year, is hitting .327 with 45 right now through 119 games for the Yankees. So he is on pace for 61 this season. So he definitely has an opportunity to, if he stays healthy and remains extremely productive, challenge that number that he put up last year, which should be pretty entertaining for us to watch over the last month and a half of the season. And we thought we might be facing a tough roster decision with Oswald Peraza coming back from his injury. Unfortunately, Anthony Volpe, the rookie who came up when we had some injuries in the infield, including Peraza, and has done a really good job hitting .256 with 7 homers and 133 at-bats. The young star, the number 6 prospect in baseball, is going to be shelved until likely mid-September at this point. So with that, we will bring Peraza right back up and put him in at shortstop, and won't face any interesting decisions. We were definitely going to keep Volpe in the lineup, so it would have meant some less playing time for DJ LeMahieu and Gleyber Torres. Perhaps fortunately we don't have to make that difficult decision with a couple of Yankees veterans quite yet, but certainly expect that the Yankees infield is going to look very different next year than it looked this past season, with a team option on Josh Donaldson that we're likely to decline. Torres headed into arbitration at a very high number, and LeMahieu having a contract that we wouldn't necessarily mind trying to get off the books in the offseason. And we've made it to September 1st, September roster expansion. Take a look at the standings here as we head into the final weeks of the season. Have been playing better of late with a 7-3 record in our last 10. The Red Sox 3-7. So we are up 6 on the Red Sox for the AL East. We are in a flat-footed tie with both the White Sox and the Twins, and a single game ahead of the Angels, and looks like 3.5 ahead of the Astros for the best record in the American League. So the battle for those 2 first-round byes, definitely 6 teams still in the mix. Quite honestly, though, with our 6-game lead on the Red Sox, they are kind of at this point the 6th of those teams. The AL East is not officially wrapped up at this point, still have a magic number of 23, but certainly feeling better now that we've stretched the lead out to 6 games. And it looks like we've got 1 game in October this year at Kansas City to finish things off. So still a little more than a month left in the season for the Yankees. Need to figure out a couple people to bring up to the big club since we've made it to September roster expansion. I think Luis Gil, I don't really know that I want him on the team. He doesn't have any options to go into the minors, but we're going to keep him on the rehab assignment for the time being. Just don't think with that brutal control that he's a pitcher we really want to build around for the long term. So I think I'm actually going to take and maybe bring up one of the pitchers who's been shuffled down to Scranton, Wilkes-Barre with our moves back and forth this year rather than heel. We've got Albert Abreu down there who's been up this year, as well as Wandy Peralta. And I guess those are and Greg Weisser. So 3 guys who have pitched in the majors this year. Peralta felt bad when we had to put him down. He was one of the few lefties out of our pen, and he had pitched pretty well in New York this year. So we're going to bring Peralta up as a 14th arm for our pitching staff, and then we'll also figure out who we want to bring up as another everyday player. And for the second roster spot in September, we're going to bring up Willie Calhoun, who did spend some time with us earlier this year. Did not hit well, 156 average and 45 at-bats, but has been pretty darn good in AAA, 313 average, 18 homers, and 345 at-bats. Had thought about bringing up the youngster Austin Wells, a decent-looking young right field prospect who's actually had a monster year in AAA, 299 average, but 38 homers and 471 at-bats. We just can't guarantee him regular playing time in the majors. Same story with Trey Sweeney, corner infielder at this point. Was up earlier, and he did rake in the 17 at-bats he had. Has not been quite as impressive in Scranton with a 249 average, 21 homers, and 426 at-bats. Still an interesting prospect, but both of them probably ready for the majors at this point, but they're just not going to get much playing time. So over the last month of the season, we'd rather have them down in AAA where they're still going to be playing every day since they aren't quite completely developed yet. And we've gotten the month of September off to a great start with a sweep of the Astros on the road. Now we've got Detroit and Milwaukee over the next week, all of those games at home. So hopefully be an opportunity for us to keep the momentum going. We're up 9 on the Red Sox now, and Detroit is one of the worst teams in the American League. Milwaukee a little bit over 500, and they are still definitely in the wild card hunt there. Only half a game out of the wild card. Crazy that either the Braves or the Phillies, a couple of 86-win teams right now, one of them is going to end up having to play in a wild card series by virtue of not winning the NL East. And as we ran out of money and didn't really plan well during the draft, we ended up not being able to sign a couple of our players, so we will get a compensation pick for missing out on our third-round pick of Tayshaun Watson. So hopefully that will be a small degree of solace for us for the fact that we screwed up the draft this year. And we'll also be in a better financial situation next season. We kind of had to scramble at the beginning of this year to offload some contracts in the 2 days between the start of the game and the start of the season to put some money into our scouting and development budgets. But hopefully with a full and regular off season, that will also put us in a position where we are a little less inflexible in how we have to approach things financially. And it was another really good week for the Yankees. Took 2 out of 3 at home against Detroit, and then we swept the Brewers. So potentially a big series in Fenway, and then out in Pittsburgh for next weekend. The 4 games in Fenway, if we had not been playing so great lately, would be a lot more meaningful. But you can see we're now up 11.5 on the Red Sox. We've got the best record in the American League at this point. So certainly want to put the kind of final nail in the coffin of the Red Sox, and taking at least 3 out of 4 in Fenway would be a big step in that direction. But we've gotten the magic number down to 9 with our real good start to the month and the Red Sox struggles thus far. And Anthony Volpe is now ready to come back from that injury, which will help us. I think we're going to send Willie Calhoun back down to the minors. Still hasn't done much at the major league level this year. Not getting a ton of at-bats as a 5th outfielder for the Yankees. So we're going to demote him back, bring up Mr. Volpe, and we are going to ensure that Volpe gets some regular playing time. We are going to supplant DJ LeMahieu against right-handed pitching with Volpe. So he's out there getting some action at a pretty regular basis. He is much more the future of the team than LeMahieu is at this point. Want to make sure that he's playing most days. As we talked about, we'd love to potentially investigate getting out from under that LeMahieu contract that still has 3 more years at $15 million a year on it in his mid to late 30s when we get to the off season. And as we get ready to begin that big series with Boston, actually we already began it because we won the first game of the series yesterday, but checking in on Judge, we have now played 144 games, so 18 games left, and he has 56 homers, 119 ribbies. So the chance for Judge to eclipse the legendary 62 the year after he hit it is definitely in play, and certainly looks like he will once again be a very strong candidate to win a second AL MVP in a row. And the good news is we've taken 2 of the first 3 in Fenway, so at the very least we're going to get a split with the Red Sox, which, given that they are far behind us in the standings, is really all that we need to do. Aaron Judge still on 56 home runs. Unfortunately, Anthony Volpe, chronic back soreness, out 3 to 4 weeks. So his regular season is probably done at this point. So we are going to go and put him back onto the injured list, and we'll go back down to AAA and bring Mr. Calhoun back, and we will put Mr. DJ LeMahieu back in the line as our second baseman against both righties and lefties for the rest of the way. And unfortunately for the Yankees, the end of that road trip was pretty brutal. After losing just 1 game through the first 12 days of the month, lost the last 2 in Fenway, and then we lost 3 in a row to the Pirates. So that was a pretty ugly finish to that road trip. We've got 6 at home now this week against the Blue Jays in the division, and then against the Arizona Diamondbacks. With that 5-game losing streak now, we're only up 8.5 on the Red Sox. The magic number still hasn't been achieved. It's 5. And we're only a game up on the Twins right now for the best record in the American League. So bad time for us to lose 5 in a row. Hopefully we can turn things around now that we're back at home. And for those who are wondering, with 12 games left in the season, Judge is still at 56 home runs. So at the beginning of last week, looked like he might have had a shot at getting to 62 or maybe even higher. Now the odds kind of against him after going homerless in our last several games. Would be nice if we get a homer from him in the next couple of days and he helps us break out of this losing streak against the Blue Jays. And horrible news for the Yankees. Aaron Judge with a high ankle sprain, going to be out 6 to 7 weeks. So he did get another homer, but his season is over. Most likely he's not going to be with us for the playoffs. So that is just a brutal blow to the Yankees here on September 21st. The worst time possible for something like that to happen. Judge is going to finish the year with a .315 average, 57 homers, and 122 runs driven in. But the week had been going good for the Yankees till this loss in which Judge got hurt. So the standing situation is pretty good right now. Magic number down to 2. Still have an 8.5 game lead on the Red Sox. We've clinched a playoff spot, and we're up a game on the Twins for the best record in the AL. So from that perspective, we're in good shape. But an offense that this year has been disappointing and currently ranks, it's actually improved a little bit lately, ranks 6th in the American League in runs scored. We're 4th in runs allowed, so the offense has gotten a little better lately, but it's going to be missing its most potent weapon going forward, which is a huge blow for these Yankees. So the injury to Judge means that Ian Happ, who we had picked up in that trade with the Cubs when they kept, I think either all or the vast majority, 90% of his salary. They proposed us an offer that was kind of interesting. Hasn't played a ton for us, 164 at-bats. He has played in 98 games, so he's pinch hit a lot and been a defensive substitute for us. Hasn't been incredibly productive, just a 171 average with 6 homers in those 164 at-bats. Hopefully a little more playing time will result in his bat being more productive for us, because we are going to need him to turn things up and be a lot more productive, given that he's basically taken Aaron Judge's spot in the lineup. Shortstop Oswald Peraza now has a sprained knee, going to have a minimal impact on his running for the next few weeks. That is certainly not great news. We're still 2 weeks away from getting Anthony Volpe back, so things are coming off the rails a bit for the Yankees here as we head into the last week and a half of the season. Hope we can just keep things healthy, and obviously we're close to clinching the division and would love to at least maintain not just the division title, which is all but ours at this point, but the best record in the American League, and getting that first round bye in particular is going to be critical for us to hopefully give Mr. Volpe more time to heal and come back, and we'll still keep our fingers crossed that we can have Judge back at some point if we make a long playoff run, but it's pretty unlikely, unfortunately. And the Yankees continue to struggle here, 3-7 over our last 10. We have clinched the American League East. We've got a 7.5 game lead on the Red Sox with 6 games to go. Flat-footed tie with the Twins for the best record in baseball. The thing we really need to pay attention to at this point is at least holding off the Angels so we get a first-round bye, and we are up 4 on them with 6 to go. So feel pretty confident that even with the depleted roster that we're dealing with, hopefully we can finish off pretty strong at Toronto and then at Kansas City. The Blue Jays at this point have been eliminated. Kansas City at this point has been eliminated. So although we're going to be on the road, doesn't look like it's a particularly daunting schedule as we try to ensure that the Yankees will have some time to rest before the playoffs begin. And it's been a brutal end to the season for the Yankees. We did take the first game in Toronto, have since lost 4 in a row. So we've had a 5-game winning streak, 4-game winning streak, and also lost 3 out of 4 over the last 2.5 weeks or so, in addition to losing our best offensive player likely for the year. Some other bad news, Anthony Volpe is still suffering from that chronic back soreness, going to require some more rest, and it's unknown when he's going to be back and ready to go. So certainly first round bye is critical for us at this point to get. We are definitely the walking wounded at this point with 2 really important players on the IL and a team that is not playing very well. With 1 game to go, the Twins are a game up on us for the best record in the AL. The good news is that we are up 2 on the Angels at this point among the division leaders. So we will have a first-round bye. The question is whether we'll have home field advantage for the American League or not. We certainly need a win and a Twins loss. And then if we look at the potential tiebreakers, and we're 3-4 against the Twins, so they've already clinched it. It doesn't matter what we do today. We are going to be the 2nd seed in the American League, so we'll get a first-round bye, but a potential ALCS matchup in Minnesota would result in the Twins having home field advantage over us, unfortunately for the Yankees. And we did at least get a decent finish to the season, 9-1 win against Kansas City last day of the year. You can see we jumped out to a 6-0 lead. Ian Happ went 2 for 3. Nestor Cortez got his 13th win of the year. Happ's got the batting average up to 178. Hit a home run. Giancarlo Stanton hit his 47th of the year. He's been pretty healthy, actually, this year. We played him at DH a lot to try to keep him rested. Not particularly proficient defensively in the outfield at this point, and he is fragile in terms of his injury proneness, similar to Aaron Judge. Unfortunately for us, Judge is still banged up and still 5 weeks away, so difficult situation for the Yankees as we get ready for the playoffs. And the Yankees are going to have a tough matchup ahead of us against the AL West champion Los Angeles Angels. They took out the Guardians 2-1 in the wild card series. So now we move on to the division series. Unfortunately for the Yankees, no help as far as the injury situation. Judge still out for 4 weeks, so extremely unlikely we'd see him even if we made it to a World Series. And Anthony Volpe's return is still unknown. 4-game rotation for the playoffs will be Rodon, Cole, Severino, and Nestor Cortez, so 2 lefties and 2 righties. Jaden Beeks, off of his 46th save this season, is still our closer, one of 2 lefties in the pen, along with Wandy Peralta for the playoffs. Taking a look at the roster players, went with 14 roster players and 12 pitchers for the playoff series. The injuries did enable the youngster Trey Sweeney to be the final guy that we named to our roster. He'll be coming off the bench, as we've talked about with the departure of Aaron Judge due to his injury. Going to be very reliant on the rental Ian Happ to maybe provide some surprising offense and a career resurgence for him for the Yankees. It would be pretty big if he's able to be a positive player for us. You can see with that minus .4 WAR over the course of the regular season, he was the worst player on the roster, a little worse than Josh Donaldson, who we're probably going to be moving on from after this year as well, who was on the interstate with a 190 average, and then Gleyber Torres, another guy who's pretty expensive for his level of production at this point. And we have been with the weakness in our outfield and the number of good youngsters that we do have for the infield, notably Cabrera and obviously Oswald Peraza as well, have been more recently getting Gleyber Torres to learn how to play left field on the fly. He's reasonably proficient out there right now, so the goal is to have him in left and Happ in right, so we can keep Giancarlo Stanton in the DH spot and hopefully healthy and productive with his bat for as long as the Yankees are in the playoffs. And certainly a tough matchup here in Game 1. Ohtani on the mound for the Angels, 16-11 with a 3.03 ERA. Take a look at what he did with the bat, and a really good year, 260, 41 homers, 104 ribbies. Would think that he's going to be a very strong candidate for MVP once again, especially with Judge having ended up hurt at the end of the season and missing out on potentially chasing history once again. Angels had our number this year, 5-1 record against the Yankees, despite the fact that our offense was a little bit better than theirs and our pitching staff was materially better than theirs. Bad news for Game 1, though, 9-2 loss. Looks like Rodon took the L. They got homers from Walsh, Rendon, and a couple from Hunter Renfroe. We got a home run from Torres. So the series quickly going against the Yankees. And they list Ohtani on the mound again. What's up with that? I guess they faked us out, and he did not actually pitch in Game 1. So guess they went with Andrew Wantz. And, yeah, he got the W for them in Game 1. Pitched really well, and Rodon was not good. So tough start to the playoffs for these depleted Yankees. Did get an 8-3 win with Cole out-pitching Ohtani in Game 2. Another Hunter Renfroe home run, as well as a homer for Ohtani. Peraza and Rizzo for the Yankees. Take a look at the box score. And really nice performance by Garrett Cole. 7 hits and 2 walks with 10 strikeouts over 7 1/3 innings. Beeks comes on and pitches an inning and 2/3 of perfect ball for the save. So the Yankees are on to Game 3 and 4 in Los Angeles, but at least we are headed to LA, and we've got the series even. Tyler Anderson Looks like a pitcher at this point of his career. He was 12-9 with a 4.27 ERA, but certainly seems like somebody we should be able to score some runs off. Let's hope that Luis Severino gives us a big game here in Game 3 on the mound. 2-1 victory. Beeks with the save in relief. Looks like Kyle Muller took the loss. Ian Happ with a home run, as well as Willie Calhoun. So a couple of guys who were not even on the 26-man roster when camp broke had solo home runs, including Willie Calhoun in the 10th to give the Yankees the win on the road. Both Severino and Anderson were good. Beeks with 2 more innings of relief was not perfect since he did allow a walk, but he's been very productive. They suffered losses to Rendon and Matt Moore. So the Yankees back on serve in the series, up 2-1. Hopefully can get a trip to the ALCS figured out today against the Angels. Nestor Cortez on the mound against Patrick Sandoval. Looks like a guy who could walk a few batters, but has a pretty decent arsenal of pitches. Would love to not have to face a must-win Game 5. And the Yankees do get the job done. Ohtani did hit a homer in defeat. And Ian Happ, the series MVP for the Yankees. So we'll take a look at what he ended up doing in the playoffs, filling in for Aaron Judge, and .533 batting average, 8 for 15 with 3 doubles. That solo home run scored 3 runs, so not the most incredible postseason in history, but he does get the first playoff series MVP award of his career, and he's helped the Yankees advance on to the ALCS. And unfortunately, after advancing to the ALCS, I just found out today that Giancarlo Stanton out for about 5 weeks with an oblique strain. So couldn't ask for a worse injury situation for the Yankees at this point, with now Stanton and Judge both on the IL. Very limited prospect of either of them playing again this year. Would be great if we could have Anthony Volpe back at some point, but that chronic back soreness looks like it's a serious issue for him. Hopefully it doesn't end up impacting his long-term health and tendency towards injuries, but we'll need to bring up another bat for the playoff roster, and the options are quite slim at this point. Quite honestly, it's only Ben Rortvedt at this point, but we can potentially add another player. The injury situation for these Yankees has been pretty rough down the stretch. And rather than add in Rortvedt to the roster and a third catcher, we moved Luis Rengifo onto the playoff roster for us, at least a player with some defensive versatility, and we think a little bit better of a bat than Rortvedt. Did hit .226 when he was up in the majors as a utility infielder for us this year, so definitely a tough situation for the Yankees right now in terms of 2 devastating injuries to our top 2 home run threats, Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton, and the top prospect in our system and one of the top 10 prospects in baseball also injured in Anthony Volpe. So definitely not going in with all cylinders working as effectively as they could be as we get ready for the playoffs and the ALCS, and we've also got the International Free Agent Showcase coming up shortly. And then a small piece of good news for the Yankees, Anthony Volpe is finally healthy, so we are going to activate him from the injured list, and we will get him onto the playoff roster. That will mean Luis Rengifo off the roster, Volpe on, which will definitely give us some, hopefully, help with the bat. Ended up having a injury-prone first year in the majors, 259 average with 8 doubles and 7 homers and 139 at-bats, but his OPS plus and WRC plus were well above average. So still a solid but abbreviated rookie year for Anthony Volpe, but will be good to have him because we can certainly use his bat right now. The youngster Trey Sweeney was going to be in the lineup, as well as Oswaldo Cabrera. I think we'll adjust things to hopefully ensure that Volpe gets some significant playing time for this upcoming playoff series, where we're going to be facing either the Twins or the White Sox in the ALCS. They are still knotted 2-2. And with Volpe back, looks like he's going to be giving us a potential charity game story. It says that he grew up poor in Watchung, New Jersey. My impression is that he actually came from a pretty decent and affluent background, but perhaps my intelligence on that is not accurate. But clearly, for purposes of the game, be interesting to see if he does ask us to start a charity shortly. I can't imagine that this storyline is much different in OOTP 24 than it was in OOTP 23, so I'm guessing that that will be coming our way soon. And we will be facing the Chicago White Sox here in the AL Championship Series. The Phillies and the Dodgers going up against each other in the NLCS. The White Sox had the best pitching staff in the American League, were 8th in the league in runs scored, and they were 4-2 against the Yankees this year. So going up against another team that had our number in the regular season, Lance Lynn on the mound for the White Sox against Carlos Rodon here in Yankee Stadium. And a good start for the Yankees, 5-4 victory. Rodon gets the W, Beeks with the save. Donaldson and Rizzo, a couple of crafty veterans with home runs here in Game 1. Good start to the series for the Yankees. Garrett Cole, after that nice performance in Game 2 of the playoffs in the first series for us, going up against the veteran Charlie Morton for the White Sox. Would definitely love to get another one at home. Not to be the case, however. Morton outpitched Cole in a 2-1 pitchers duel. Save for Jordan Romano. Got a home run from Gavin Sheets. So Yankees head to Chicago in a 1-1 tie. And Game 3, the White Sox have home field advantage now. Dylan Cease on the mound, so a tough pitching matchup for the Yankees. He was 10-9 with a 3.14 ERA this year. You can see he's been brilliant in the playoffs, 2-0 with an 0.84 ERA. We've got Sevy on the mound. Yankees with a 3-0 victory. So it's been pitchers' duels. Beeks got the win in relief. Trevino with a home run for the Yankees. 3 runs in the top of the 10th for the Yankees. So a crazy finish to this one. Pitchers duel throughout, and the Yankees with 3 runs in the top of the 10th give the win to Beeks, who had 2 perfect innings of relief for the Yankees. So the pitching has been excellent thus far in the ALCS. And Anthony Volpe looking for us to start a charity based on my previous experience. I believe it's going to cost us, although again, this is now OOTP 24. I do not know that for sure. But my hunch is that when we look at our front office situation, we'll get a big boost in fan interest, which is already a 99, but will push us well over 100. I think it's about a 10-point boost typically. And if we take a look at accounting, there should ultimately be a $16 million line item negative popping up somewhere for the amount of money that it's going to cost us to start this charity. But I think it will be good in terms of goodwill with the community, and also hopefully just get that expense out of the way here in the 2023 financial season for the Yankees. So we're going to go ahead and start the charity that Mr. Volpe requested. Don't know if that shows up immediately on our accounting records. I think we may need to sim ahead a day to see that. But more importantly than that, we've got a 2-1 lead on the White Sox. Nestor Cortez against Michael Kopech. Hopefully the Yankees can keep the momentum going their way. Not to be the case, though. 7-4 loss. Kopech with the win. Cortez with the loss. Romano with another save. Got home runs from Donaldson, LeMahieu, and Gleyber Torres. But not enough for the Yankees. So now we face a pivotal Game 5 here in Chicago. Matchup of Game 1 again. Rodon and Lance Lynn, neither of whom has been particularly impressive in the playoffs. Yankees with a 9-2 victory. Happ, Peraza, Donaldson, and Rizzo with home runs. Rodon gets the W. And the Yankees continue this crazy run without our two most productive offensive players. And the Yankees are going to be headed back to New York, one game away from a potential World Series matchup. And we are scouting all of the young international amateurs right now to get a little more information on them. Apologies that I'm rushing through this a bit. If it seems that way to you, it is actually true. I wasn't intending for this to be an incredibly long episode, but this playoff run just keeps going, and I really don't want it to end at this point. Charlie Morton on the mound against Garrett Cole. Rematch of Game 2 when the White Sox won that pitcher's duel 2-1. See if the Yankees can turn the tables on them in Game 6. Not to be the case, though, a 4-1 loss, so Cole loses his second game of the series, and we are heading to a Game 7. So the Yankees are as close as you can possibly be to the World Series, but as close as you can possibly be to the season ending without getting to that big destination. Game 7 here, Dylan Cease, who's been brilliant in the playoffs, against Luis Severino, who's also been pretty brilliant in the playoffs. And the White Sox beat the Yankees 4-2. Cease out pitches Severino, save for Lucas Giolito, no home runs. Yankees traded runs in the first and second. White Sox broke it open with 3 in the fifth. And that was all that there would be for scoring. So Severino, not a great appearance, loses his first game of the playoffs. Still finished with a 2.41 ERA, so he was very productive in the playoffs, but not productive enough in this last game of the season. Dylan Cease sets a Chicago White Sox record with 13 strikeouts in a playoff game. And the season is over for the Bronx Bombers. A really ugly way for the season to end. Had a 3-2 lead coming home to the Bronx, and they were outscored 8-3 those final 2 games of the season. So very disappointing finish to the season for the Yankees. Come up short in the ALCS, and it looks like it's going to be up to the White Sox to go see if they can derail the Dodgers in the 2023 World Series. Clearly, you don't want to scapegoat things completely, but would have to believe in my heart of hearts that if we had both Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton healthy for that ALCS, could have been a very different situation. But it is what it is. The Yankees season is done. In our next episode, we'll take a deep dive into preparations for the off season. Get our evaluation from Mr. Steinbrenner, and hopefully start planning to be even better than we were this year in 2024 with a full off season to really build this team the way that we want to. We still don't see the money that we spent for the charity showing up yet. Maybe we still need to get kind of a confirmation from young Mr. Volpe kind of thanking us and announcing the start of the charity, and perhaps that's when it shows up on the income statement. But we will focus on that in our next episode as well. Until then, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.